It's a great day in Kershaw County. Football teams are working out at North Central and Lugoff-Elgin and Camden. And we're going to have a great year ahead as schools are going to start, I think, in almost a month. Good gosh. Meanwhile, the rewrite of Vision 2030 is undergone. Russell, thanks for coming last night. And there's a meeting tonight at the Bethlehem Methodist Church right across in Lugoff, correct? Baptist, excuse me, and I don't have to call up the Reverend Marion Bennett and apologize, but Miss Marion Bennett and the core team are hosting a rewrite of Vision Kershaw 2030 right this afternoon in about 30 minutes, if y'all can make it out there in the Facebook land. And let's see, I think we have enough people here. Would you all please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead that. It says in the good book, blessed is the nation whose God is our Lord. With that, let us pray. Lord, you have given us many blessings this month with new jobs and new opportunities and new ways to serve you and to glorify your name. Thank you for this opportunity. And we remember the great words that say that the consequences are ours, but the glory be yours. All these things we remember and ask in the great name of the Master of all men, our Lord and Savior. Amen. And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, Mr. DeBose, would you retrieve the sign-up roster for public comments?
Mr. Chairman, one person signed up. That person is Tom Webb III.
Mr. Webb, if you come up, please, and limit it to 5 minutes, and the normal rules apply in terms of decorum. And I regret that we don't do a Q&A here, but this is to hear from you without an exchange. Please, sir, welcome.
I hope y'all don't get tired of me speaking so often.
I'll bring the microphone down to your level. Thank you.
I hope y'all don't get tired of me speaking so often, but I'm going to do it anyway. And a lot of times I'm kind of negative. I'll be a mix today. I'm so glad that we have agribusiness that looks like it's going to flourish here in Kershaw County. It's so important to have something to eat. There's all kinds of things that people can do that makes money, but if they don't have anything to eat, if transportation fails, if the electricity fails, what are you going to do? So at least we'll have turkeys to eat. So hooray for the Prestige family and their family-run business, and may we get more of that. That's on the positive side, and private enterprise, private property is good things. But on the negative side, there's this thing that's looming over us, the World Economic Forum's Vision 2030. And I've mentioned it before, but they seem to be intent on getting rid of private property by 2030. These are big shots. They're tycoons in the industry and world leaders. World Economic Forum. The way this might work is little by little rather than one fell swoop. What happens is you get government and business collaborating, and to a certain extent, there's some of that that's good. We do it here. But you can go too far to the point where you lose the boundary. You don't know whether you're talking about government or business, and that is fascism. And then you go a step further, and the government owns the business, all of the business, the means of production. That's communism. And you can go further than that. I think that's where this is headed. It's the old thing again, where you have somebody in charge, where people have no say in it. There's no voting in what's coming. It's just going to be somebody in charge, and we are the serfs. Serfs have done the work, but now the robots are going to do the work. They'll have no use for us, but they're referring to us as useless eaters. So they want to get rid of people. So one thing that scares me about this vaccine, that Bill Gates and his father before him were in favor of very great reduction in world population. Georgia Guidestones have in several languages written on it just across the border in Elberton, Georgia. Good ideas like brotherly love and let's don't have any pollution, but the thing that's scary about it is the the admonition that we should not have more than 500 million people for the whole planet of the earth. That's 1/14 of what is here. So will they make that happen when the robots are doing everything that us serfs used to do? Are we going to be eliminated? So please protect the right to private property. If we have private property and a respect for everybody's private property, it might slow down or interrupt this intention of the world leaders to have a world government and get rid of us and just use robots and artificial intelligence to serve themselves. So please be very careful about what you do about private property. There's an old saying back during the Revolution, I might not agree with what you say, but I'd fight to the death for your right to say it. I don't think any young people these days would even know what that was from or what that means, but you could apply that just as well to private property. I might not agree with the way you manage your property, but I would fight to the death for your right to manage it your own way, do it your own way. Please look out for private property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mr. DeBose.
Mr. Chairman, that's the last person that signed up, Mr. Chairman.
And that concludes public comments. We now are honored to have a public hearing for the great friends out in Lynch's. We have a public hearing in regard to an ordinance by Kershaw County ratifying the execution of a contract to convey a parcel of land entered into and between Kershaw County and Lee County Regional Water Authority, authorizing the conveyance of the parcel of land subject to the land conveyance contract and matters related thereto. I'm going to open the public hearing. Mr. DeBose, do we have anybody signed up?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. And I see no one coming forward, and I'm going to close that public hearing as a necessary matter towards a business development issue. We move now to the next item on the agenda. The agenda is on the screen and in front of you and in your electronic books, helpfully put together by Mary. I think over 140 pages in this agenda. With that, I ask for an adoption of the agenda. Can we have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? I've discussed with most of you today that I'm going to take the prerogative of the chairman to reorder the sequence of the agenda, but not the content. And I've discussed with you how item known as Seagull, which is items 6 and 7, under ordinances on the second page, will be preceded by item number 1, new business, commercial property abatement policy, and we'll take an executive session in front of items 6 and 7. Everybody, I think we need to be informed before we vote. And many of you said, and I quite agree, we hate to have an executive session in the middle, but it's going to be necessary in order to inform our judgments that follow therefrom. So with that, any further discussion? Yeah, and I apologize to the people watching from home, too. There will be a break when we go to executive session.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
You know, I am not a fan of having an executive session during the middle of the meeting, but I appreciate you contacting me 20 minutes ago to let me know why you were looking at doing this. And if we're expected to vote, we've got to know what we're talking about, and otherwise
Right.
it just won't happen.
Exactly, and thank you. Other discussion? Okay, it looks pretty straightforward. Again, we're ready to move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. And Mary, we're going to do that just as a matter of protocol. With that, we move now to the public presentation from Lynch's River Electric Co-op. And we ask Mr. Brian Brofton to come on up. Brian, good to see you. And then to inform you of our rules, it's 15 minutes.
Sure.
If you can leave a little time for Q&A, we'd sure like to have a little give and take. And we'll try to stay on time.
Sure. And
Go
I hope
ahead.
I can leave a lot of time for Q&A.
Go right ahead.
That's always good. I'm Brian Broughton. I'm president and CEO of Lynch's River Electric Cooperative. And actually now president and CEO of RiverNet Connect. We've started in the internet business. And there's a lot of reasons why. And we actually started before the pandemic. So I think we started at the right time. We made a decision even before the pandemic that we were going to get high-speed internet in the rural areas of our territory. And those rural areas are Berrien DeKalb, if you know where Berrien DeKalb is, Mount Pisgah, those areas, Cassett. Those people deserve the same speeds that Camden, Lugoff, Lancaster, Indian Land, those children deserve the same opportunities that those other students may have. So it's education is important, and getting high-speed internet in these areas is important education-wise. Now you got teledoc and all those things that, as far as health and stuff like that. And I can give you a little prime example. We had one of our customers, and this is fiber, and everything we're doing is fiber. There's no coax, no anything. They were paying around $150, $160 a month just for TV. They couldn't stream. Speeds wasn't high enough. So they had to do the Dish Network thing. Then they had to pay for a home phone because their cell phone did not work good. Cell service was not good. There's a lot of things. So then they were able to get fiber from us. Now, I get tickled when I see broadband availability at 25.3. We're offering, our smallest package is 300 over 300, and our highest package is 1 gig over 1 gig. Everything's based off 25.3. 25.3 is not going to get you a whole lot. So what we're giving is good. But we took a $150, $160 bill that this person had with their carrier, cable carrier. Then they were able to stream for about $65 a month. They were paying $84 for 2 megabits of speed. 2. Now they're paying $59.95 for 300 over 300. So it dropped their bills tremendously, and they getting a service now that they can use for any and everything. And then on top of that, they were able to disconnect their home phone and use Wi-Fi calling, and their cell phone works everywhere in their house now. So it saves, we're saving tremendous amounts of money of people in the rural area who needs to save money. I promise you, if you ride through an area of Mount Pisgah, South Carolina right now, and you go down some of these little dirt roads, like I think one of them's named Stein Brown or something, I'm trying to think. One of y'all may know where that is. They have access to gigabyte service. Those people, this is in the north central area, they have access to what people in Charlotte and Columbia have. And it's all because of what we're trying to do to provide a better service for our territory. For example, in 1939 and 40, people in the city, they had power. People in the country didn't have it. Co-op started. We at Lynch's River look at that same thing now in 2021 is people in the city have fiber. People in the country don't have it. So I kind of wanted to come tonight and just have a dialogue about what we're doing, why we're doing it. And I'm going to do, I know tonight's just going to be dialogue. I will put together a written presentation for you all. Again, tonight I just want us to have conversation. If you got questions for me, I'll be glad to answer it. Like tonight I got one of my board members, Gary Sowell. I got my CFO, Dustin Cato, and my mapping guru, Gary Coates. Can we hand y'all like a piece of paper?
Yeah, if you'll give it to Mary and
Sure.
she'll pass
Okay.
it around. Thank you.
But it's got a map on here that I want you to look at too. It shows you areas where there's nobody served. It's got areas, if you look at most of the green areas, it's areas that we're already serving because we've already built out fiber in Kershaw County. I think we spent about $2 million in Kershaw County already, and we're looking at spending about $4.5 million more in Kershaw County. And that means that every resident of Kershaw County that has power with Lynch's River will have access to fiber. And also on top of that, we can go 2 miles outside of our service territory. So we have some areas that we would love to serve. Just the other night, I talked to somebody on Truesdale Road, which is on 521. You know, we don't serve them power, but they would sure love to have our internet. It also helps businesses. I don't know if you've ever eaten at Alan Russell's joint there in Westville. He serves barbecue. He told me, you know, his point of sale device, he has to unplug it and plug it back when somebody's trying to pay with a card because he can't never get it to work because he's working off DSL. You know, we can offer him fiber. All the churches. I'll tell you what we're doing at Buffalo Baptist Church out in the Buffalo community. We've set up a hotspot. Anybody in that community or anybody anywhere from 8 in the morning to like 10 o'clock at night, they can pull up in Buffalo Baptist Church's parking lot and use the internet, free of charge. And we're doing hotspots all across each county that we serve. And we want to do more in Kershaw County, and we plan on doing that. But that's just kind of the gist of what we're doing. I will say 25.3 might sound like a lot, but it's not. My nephew lives down at the lake, Wateree, and he downloaded a game on Play. We've done this to have some fun. He downloaded a game on PlayStation, and my son downloaded a game on PlayStation. They started at the same time. It took my son's download about 3 or 4 minutes. It took my nephew's about 24 to 26 hours because of speed.
I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate what your company is doing. You know, throughout the years, I have received more calls than I can count about Lake Wateree. We have some folks sitting here who live on Lake Wateree.
Sure.
So you got any suggestions or any, how do I say it, any recommendations to your opposition?
We can provide fiber to Lake Wateree.
You can provide it.
Yes. We can serve the
Well, I'm
whole.
all in favor of whoever can provide it, as long as it's reasonable, it's
Sure.
not raping anybody.
Yeah, if you look at our numbers and what we're charging, $59.95 for 300 up and 300 down, $79.95 for 1,000 up, 1,000 down, which is a gig service, for $79. We got people paying more than $79 for 2 and 3 DSL. Their cell phones don't work, nothing works. There are more and more people since the pandemic that's working from home. And we've helped those people tremendously. Didn't realize how many people work from home and how many times, every time they get disconnected, they're losing time and they have to reconnect. So, yes, we can serve from basically the bridge at Lake Wateree all the way to Knights Hill. We serve that whole
Well,
state.
thank you, and that ends my questions. I'm just glad to see you have a famous person with you, Gary Sowell.
Do we have enough copies to give one to the media as well, Danny? Yeah, if you don't mind, pass it off there.
But I would-
Other questions?
Please ask.
To clarify,
Sure.
to clarify.
Mr. Tucker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Mr.
Thank you,
Tucker,
sir.
you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Russell.
I'll get you.
Mr. Brogdon, I got where you're going on the Camden side up Highway 97.
Sure.
Now, how far over do you go on the northern end of the county? Is that all the way to the county line to Chesterfield, Lancaster County? You cover those areas. And do you go in Bethune?
We do not reach Bethune.
Okay.
Now, I will say, when the law changes, you know, right now, law states I can't go but 2 miles outside of my service territory. When they tell me 10 miles, I'm going 10.
And that was my next question. Are you communicating with the other providers? Because right now where I live off Black River Road. There's a donut hole. You got AT&T 1.5 miles from my house, and then you had True Vista 2 miles from my house. So I sat in that 3.5, 4 mile donut, and I can't get internet unless I do something like HughesNet.
Bless your heart.
Oh yeah, I've been living with it for 50-something years. I'm okay. And so I want to make sure that there's no more donut holes because we're communicating with our competitors and making sure everyone's getting served. And I hope they do give you 10-mile radius where you can go out because that will overlap and make each corporation or company more eager to serve and not miss out on the folks that's in that donut hole. So thank you.
We are serving in areas that you can't imagine. If you hadn't been through some of Berrien DeKalb, some of Cassett, some of Mount Pisgah, ride through those areas. These people are getting top-notch service, gigabyte speeds. And it's going to save them not only on their monthly charge, is getting fiber, it's going to save them on their phone bill, it's going to save them from, you can stream. I didn't know anything about streaming, nothing, because we couldn't. You know, and one of the main reasons we went in this, number one, we want to provide that service to our community. I will tell you, my local provider sent me a letter saying, this is what you got, this is all you're going to get, don't call us no more. You know, and that's fine. But every member of Lynch's River, and that's a good bit of Kershaw County, I think we got around 4,000 members. And then if you add another 2 miles to each one of those areas, we're going to go 2 miles. I can promise you that.
Okay.
We're going to get it to everybody we can get it to.
Good.
And then once state law is going to change, because everybody that calls me and says, Brian, when you coming, I'm going to say, call your representative and we'll get it to you. So those days are coming, but we're going to serve beyond our territory.
Yeah, a little context. Remember this body here with Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Conley put some seed money into a Department of Agricultural grant that did a mapping effort that led to matching funds that True Vista is providing in the rural agricultural areas. And Brian is bringing a new dimension to that. Secondly, the Sand Hills telephone coming out of the northern county is serving Bethune and putting down fiber as well. So this is an exciting time. Mr. Rick Williams and I go back way on this issue as private industry, such as Lynch's River, is reaching out to provide a need we urgently need, as Mr. Jones has said. Over to you, Russell. Please, sir.
Hey, obviously this is a lot of good news for a lot of folks. Thanks for helping lead the way in the rural area. My question was, it looks like you're just on one side of the lake. Will you reach over to the Lugoff side of the lake up going toward Fairfield County? Or will you just be on?
If we can get there, we'll serve it. As of right now, no. It's just our side, what I consider the Kershaw County side of the lake on 97. That's our service territory.
Okay, so currently you're running wire where you have electricity provided. You're
Correct.
Utilizing the same
Yes.
poles and that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And another reason why we're doing it is, it's just like us, and you can ask ORS or anybody in the state, when we get funds, we spend them immediately. We don't wait 2 years. We don't wait 5 years. That's why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, Chesterfield County, for example, has Sand Hill in Chesterfield County. But Sand Hill was not providing that service in Chesterfield County, and that's why we're providing.
So when I look at this map, you guys are the hazy blue overlay. Is that your service area?
That's the service area that we've already built out. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Will you guys work off of that? It seems like it's a line. Will you guys be able to work in different directions off of that line?
Most definitely. This line was done, what we done originally, we had 18 substations that we serve. We wanted to get those communications to our substations, so we followed a path along our power line. We didn't even have to add a pole in line or anything. So we had a certain area to get communications. And then we will go off this area and serve everyone else.
So when you look at the map a year or 2 years from now, it'll bleed out north and south, east and west.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's excellent. Thank you. I
Yeah,
really
and-
appreciate y'all's commitment to growing your business and helping the needs of the community.
Well, what happens, I mean, and you have to think about it now, people in the city have this access. Now, whether they use it or not, I don't know, but like somebody in the country like me, I live out in the country. I mean, I can take a thermometer now, a smart thermometer. I can control my temperature with my cell phone. There's all kind of things you can do. We getting real data off meters that we couldn't get before. We got stuff at work now where if his power bill goes up, we can get real data off his meter, and we can tell him, okay, you got hot water heater problem, you got so-and-so. And it's feeding you all that information. So it's not just for watching TV, it's for helping the consumer with their energy bills. It's giving them real data on what they can take back, and we can explain that to them. You can't do that without fiber. So there's a multitude of things you can do with fiber.
Yeah.
It's going to allow us to do.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Brogdon, one more thing that I want to bring to your attention, and you may be doing this already. Have you contacted Santee Lynch's Regional Council of Governments? I know they're working on some broadband grants, and that's part of our county and part of our region. And if you do not have that information, Mr. Carpenter or Ms. Mary, be happy to get it to you, but you do need to contact them and see what's available there as well.
I would love to do that, yes.
Right. We are over time, but I think there's enough interest that we keep going. Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I commend you on your efforts to do that. I grew up on those roads in Mount Pisgah. And about 3 days a week, we had to pipe sunshine in. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he's corn-fed.
So it's, and I grew up in Buffalo Church, so, you know, the churches are such a focal point of the country, people out there. So I think it's important to do that as well. So I commend you. I support you in your efforts, and anticipating all these areas on this map are one day going to be blue. Is that what we're anticipating? That this will all be blue?
Yes, sir.
And then even outside of that, hopefully down the road?
Yes, sir.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, this is very much a part of our Vision 2030 for broadband and Wi-Fi, and I salute Mr. Carpenter for having allowed the matching funds from the Department of Agriculture. But what we're now looking forward is, you said you were going to send us a proposal, Brian. That'd be great, and then maybe we as a body can meet and act on it.
Sure.
Other comments? Ben?
I was just going to say thanks for what you're doing in the rural areas. Me and my neighbors live a minute or so off I-20 at the White Pond Road exit down Porter Cross Road, and we're still living in the 25/3 world and are trying to haggle and wrangle and figure out how we could wrestle fiber down that road. Even though it's a much more densely populated area, it doesn't make sense for them at the moment to move there. So I'm glad that you've been able to innovate and get it done.
And I'm going to tell you the sad thing. The way, if you look at this map, and there's different colors, there's different shades that tell you percentages, and the way it's cut up, these are cut up like grids. If you take this one piece of paper right here, and let's just say there's 500 customers in this block, okay? This customer right here has 25/3. According to federal regulations, that takes out the other 499 when it comes to funding. That's sad. What companies do, and I can tell you what the co-ops don't do, we're going to feed everybody. We're not going to build into one block just to satisfy a grid so nobody else will get any funding for it. That's what goes on. And that's the sad part is this one person that sits at that little building that's sitting out there gets 25/3. And the other 499 sitting out here has got 2 megabits, if they're lucky. And that leaves all these people without fiber. That's what's sad. I get tickled, you know, somebody say, well, y'all gonna get this, you gonna get that. We were in line to get some money from the federal government, and by the time it got to us, if we'd have took the money and paid lawyer fees, we'd have lost money. Just telling you how it works.
Brian, it's been great. Thank you. And I enjoyed seeing you up there in the northern part of the county. I agree with you. The barbecue up in Westville is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I wish you a safe ride back. Thank you. That concludes the public presentation. We move to approval of minutes. We have 2 of those. They're up on the screen from 22 June, a regularly scheduled meeting. It's in page 4 in your electronic books. It's at tab A there as well. Can we have a motion to approve?
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cornell, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Tucker, any discussion on those minutes?
We're just doing the top one, right? June?
Say again?
It's just both minutes, June and July?
We'll get to that in a minute.
First one,
Okay.
22nd.
Yeah, page 4. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And the minutes are approved. Mary, the second group is 1st of July and a call meeting. It's at tab B and page 10, and it's on the screen. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second?
Second.
Very good, thank you. And any discussion? I note that was where we approved the pay rise and on the budget. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mary, that's unanimous. The minutes are approved. We move to a series of ordinances. The one I've been waiting on is the third reading of an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more incentive agreements with Prestige Farms. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce that?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have tonight in front of you for third reading the incentive agreement agreed upon between Kershaw County and Prestige Foods of South Carolina, LLC, previously known as Project Goalpost. It has previously passed council on first and second reading.
And I notice we have the Prestige family here, a family business. And if we have lengthy debate, Zach's child may be born while we're here. So it's up to us to put as much pressure on the junior Prestige man who's present today as possible. Okay, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second
I
from
yield to
Mr.
Mr.
Jones. Any discussion? Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been knowing this family for quite some time, and good evening there, Mr. Ron and Mr. Zach. That's how you used to look some years ago there, Mr. Prestige. Handsome young man. But I just want to say what everyone has been saying over the process of this announcement is thank you. Thank you for being local. Thank you for being who you are, you and your family and your company. And we look forward to the great things that you're going to bring and the jobs that people can make a livable wage off of and be able to do a lot of good things in our community. So anything that I can do here or personally, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you had the second.
I do. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of County Council. Ron and Zach, let me say this about your dad. He's honest. He has integrity. If he tells you he's going to do something, he does it. So I'm sure you're the same way. And I'm very proud to be a part of this tonight, Ron. And I tell you, I've worked with your mom, Zach. She gives so much to the community, and you and your family have as well. So I welcome this, and I look forward to success. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, just on top of Prestige Farms and then bringing the processing here, thank you very much. You've been a great asset to Kershaw County, and certainly you're going to build on that with this. So we thank you for that.
Yes.
Others?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Connell?
I was just going to say, I work with my dad too, and we've only been in probably about 15 or 20 fights. And I'm glad to say that we've never had law enforcement called on us to break us up. No, seriously though, I really am grateful for family businesses. I think it's important to generationally make sure they're protected. At your presentation the other day, Mr. Prestige, I heard you talking about G1, 2, and 3. It just sounds like the UNC Business School class I was going through. And it made me think of how important it is to protect them and make sure that you've got the relationships in place to do that. And if 5 years of commitment and perseverance is not a signal of setting up the relationships that are necessary, I don't know what is. So we appreciate your commitment to the community, and I know you're grateful for us being committed to you as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? I would say on the family business side, and I know Mr. Brazel will agree, the federal government is considering some measures that are going to make it even harder. And we at Kershaw County have the ways to pull together to help our family businesses get through some tough regulations that may be coming down from on high. For now, it is within our means as a county to help you get employees in those seats, well-trained people with our trained and ready workforce that this county supported in the establishment of the Woolard Technical Center and the CCTC and our wonderful high school system. So that's what we ought to commit to going forward. We should also thank Camden, who are providing a critical asset, Cassett Water, Black River, and all the others who are a part of this effort, because the work's not done yet. We are just getting started. So with that, I think we're ready to go to a vote. Thank you, gentlemen. This is going to be a great day. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous, Mary. We move to the second item, third reading of another ordinance ratifying the execution of a contract to convey a parcel of land. Mr. Carpenter, can you tell us about that,
Mr. Chairman,
please?
members of council, you have in front of you tonight for third reading an ordinance that allows the county to convey a parcel of land located in the Governor's Hill Industrial Park to the Cassett Lee Water Authority. This will be used as a water tower to provide water service to the new facility to be built at this site. It was previously approved by council on first and second reading, and the public hearing was held earlier.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Discussion. Mr. Tucker, do you want to lead?
I really don't have anything to say other than thank you and congratulations.
Yeah. Mr. Connell?
I think we beat the horse on the first go-round, and we made it to third reading.
And we made it all the way. Any other discussion? Again, Cassett Water has done some wonderful work in collaborating with this effort, along with Camden and what their role is. This has been a team play, a team sport, and I would just be remiss if I didn't mention our legal team that helped pull this together. And Jeff Burgess, you just keep losing your hair back there in the back. Well done, Jeff, and my thanks to your wife for this long run to make this happen. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor so signify. And it's unanimous, and I would ask the Prestige family to come forward and let's give you a presentation. Gentlemen, if you'll squeeze in for a picture.
There we go. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the Seinfeld comedy series. In my family, if you're a klutz and you just fall down and do stupid things, we call it a Kramerism. As you can tell, I've been doing Kramerisms lately. It's a real pleasure to address you. This has not been easy. This has been very, very hard. I moved to Camden 38 years ago this week as a horse doctor. If I had ever had any idea how easy my life was, getting up in the middle of the night, treating sick horses, weekends, holidays, whatever, I wonder what in the world happened. What actually happened was my dad asked me to start a turkey company in South Carolina 27 years ago, 13 days ago, on July 1st. I've never looked back. That wasn't easy either. In my family, we are kind of famous for saying that there's no Santa Clauses in agriculture. It's a tough business.
Tough business.
It's especially tough for a family business. But the good thing about family businesses is that they tend to stand the duration of time. And that's why he's so important. And his daughter that might be born tonight or tomorrow, I think we're getting real close. But it's critically important. It would not have happened if it wasn't for y'all. I don't know how long ago it was I came and talked to Vic and Julian about the concept of going the next logical step for my family business, build a very expensive, very highly automated, high-tech plant that would be something that this county would be proud of, whether it was in this county or elsewhere. I mean, I can tell you about rural counties, the challenge of trying to get all the infrastructure put together is a significant
challenge, not so much in Spartanburg or Columbia or Charleston, where they are typical, are used to having these huge infrastructure requirements for a relatively large plant. But in a rural county, kudos to you. Black River, Cassett Water, Dominion, who am I leaving out?
Camden.
City of Camden. Without all those things coming together, it's virtually impossible. Then if you really want to make it hard, do it in the middle of a pandemic. That followed a lot of international trade disruptions that made agriculture in general very, very tough over the last few years. The international trade disputes and everything else, unfortunately, tends to make it very tough on agriculture in a lot of cases before it does a lot of other kinds of industries. But you invested in us. We're going to invest in you. That $150 million that the papers keep referencing doesn't include a big truck fleet, doesn't include employees that'll work in the cafeteria, truck drivers, maintenance crew, cleanup crews in the middle of the night. One thing I'm very proud of in my company, everybody talks about what happened with the labor situation. All my people came to work every day.
Amen.
All of them. They have to. Those turkeys don't know if it's Christmas Day or Easter Sunday. They have to eat. We have to make the feed. We have to do all those things that we have to do in agriculture. And I couldn't be more proud of my people and you for having the confidence to let this go forward. We hope to break ground as soon as Ken tells us that we've actually got the final signature on the last thing we need from the county to be perfectly legal to go out there and do that, and I'm hoping that that's going to be in the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ron. And do you have a nickname as a grandfather? Papa, good name. Congratulations in advance. Thank you very much. All right, we move to the next item. We move over to part 2 in your electronic book, and up on your screen is where we are in our item number 4 on our agenda, I believe. Or is it item number 3?
3.
Item number 3. It's a second reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in one or more series. Mr. Carpenter, can you take us on to this?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for an amount not to exceed $7 million for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, equipping, and improving various capital projects. These were the projects for a public works building, an EMS station, and a fire station. Council has previously approved this on first reading.
Yeah, it's in page 1 in your electronic book, and it's on the screen, I believe. With that, can we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? Mr. Carpenter, do you want to run through that, just a little bit of background, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As council may recall, during the budget process, council approved the use of millage. It was currently an existing millage, restructuring the debt that the county had, thus freeing up millage that was able to be used for a variety of other purposes, one of which would be the issuance of these bonds. This resulted in no new millage or no increase in taxes on the public.
Which is a creative project that I think we all should be very proud of in terms of how we've restructured our finances. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Connell.
As a reminder for the public, Mr. Carpenter, part of this is intended for public works.
Yes, sir.
And some of the other projects, which we've been talking about for years, but just haven't been able to prioritize with the funds that we had. Well, now we can, based on the restructuring and some of our goals and either retiring or, like I said, restructuring debt. It's a good time to do it, and the facility needs it badly.
And I thank Mr. Brazel for some of the imaginative solutions that were derived in making this happen. all of us together have delivered a good product for our county in this budget. Other comments?
This also deals.
Mr. Jones, go
Thank you.
ahead.
This also deals with fire.
Yes, sir, it does.
Yep. Other comments? Okay. This is a tremendous opportunity. I think we'll see more detail on this in the third reading. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. We have Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. All those opposed is Mr. Jones. The motion passes and moves to a third reading. Move to item number 4, which is the second reading of an ordinance modifying the installment plan. It's on page 8 in your electronic books. It's tab F. With that, Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce the topic?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as council may recall, as part of that same process we just discussed, our existing bonds were restructured and defeased. This is the ordinance that allows us to do that.
Very good. With that, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve second reading, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
Mr. Carpenter, could you give some clarification on that where millage is concerned?
Yes, sir. Again, this is taken, by defeasing the bonds, we are paying off debt that is currently on the books. That frees up the millage that was used previously as approved by council for that bond, among other items that the council assigned it to in the budget that it was approved.
Thank you.
And it's directly related back to your response to Mr. Connell, correct?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So this is all part of the mechanism, and this second reading will be followed by a third reading very, very soon, or next time, perhaps the next time we meet. Is that the expectations, Vic?
Sorry, what was
That we'll have a third reading at the next meeting,
Yes, sir.
or do you think you've got the lawyers all lined up on this one?
I believe you have it, yes, sir, next meeting.
Yeah, okay, and I'll need to have a separate meeting before we go into that. Okay, with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, myself, Mr. Connell, and Mr. Brazel. Those opposed, Mr. Jones. Thank you very much. It passes, Mary, and moves to a third reading. Move to the item number 5, which is a second reading of an ordinance authorizing the consumption of alcoholic beverages on real property. Let's see, that's at tab G and page 103 in your electronic books, and it's up on the screen. Can we have a motion? All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Brazel?
Yeah.
I got a first from Mr.
Make a motion
Brazel.
to discuss.
Can we have a second for discussion?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. We move into discussion. Any discussion? Mr. Brazel, you want to lead?
I don't have it in front of me. I read over it earlier. Thank you. I read over it earlier in the week. To clarify, what would, it wouldn't allow people to coming off
Yes.
from work and drink
No, sir,
alcohol. Can you give
this
some
would not allow
clarification?
drinking on county property. It would allow for special events to receive a permit for the duration of that one event that would allow the consumption of beer and wine on the property, no hard liquors.
Okay.
Can you to help him out, are there more items in here that, such as insurance and permissions and so on?
Yes, sir, it does require a minimum coverage of insurance that must be held as far as liability and casualty, and insurance that must be provided to the county, as well as a requirement for fees that they must pay, cleanup, things like that as well.
And it's similar to a like policy in the city of Camden, for example?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, Russell, back to you, sir.
I just wanted to clarify for everybody watching and for the record that it would only be for special occasions, and they would have to, how much is the permit that they would have to?
$500.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to have an event, they would have to come through proper channels to make this feasible, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to get clarification. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vic, you or either Ken, I know that the city of Camden has what we call a liquor license when they do their events within the city. Is anywhere in this ordinance covers that, which means if we're having the event in the city, because we got some parks that's in the city, that covers that to make sure that they are in compliance with the city as well as the county?
Well, nothing in this ordinance would preclude the city having its own rules that they would have to follow as well. This only applies to county property, which currently a city license would not allow them to be on county property regardless. This allows them to be on county property. They would still have to meet every term and condition the city would also put on. So they're overlapping. They're not in lieu of each other. You would have to do both, whatever both require to do.
But do we have that in here is what I'm saying. I got that, we're not enforcing city's not enforcing us, but what I'm saying, I come to the county and I want to get a license within the city. I'm aware that I need a city license, but you guys go ahead and approve me, and I say, screw the city, I got what I need.
We'll come up with something that if for third reading, that if you wish to amend it and add it to,
Okay.
we'll have that for you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, Mr. Connell, go ahead.
I was just going to say, excuse me, Mr. DeBose, if you could clarify, I don't think that we could usurp City of Camden's jurisdiction anyway. If it was within their jurisdiction, you still have to go through them.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But right now, you can't consume alcohol on any county property,
Sure.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be further clear, is this for a sale of alcohol on county property with permit, or is this for the consumption of?
It's for the consumption. It doesn't define whether the individuals would sell it or provide it. That's up to the event itself. It's not for someone to have like a food truck to come in and do it. It's got to be part of a special event. So the conditions within that special event are the individual. Some, if it's a wedding and they may have beer and wine available, they're not going to charge. Others may have a cash bar.
Right.
Yeah, I know that Food for the Soul asked for permission for alcoholic consumption, not for sale, and we had to turn them down at Veterans Park is a good example. And Food for the Soul, of course, is a very worthy institution, and we've had a number of others too. Can you cite other that we've had to turn down because of a lack of a policy, Vic?
None other than the ones you just mentioned, but I'm sure that there have been through the years a number of people who had indicated a desire at the rec center or places where families may have gatherings that they would have liked to have that ability that they couldn't.
So this would include the rec center. What other places would it include, just to enumerate a few examples?
The places would be the Aquatic Center, the KC West Complex, Larry Doby Complex, the Old Armory, Science Park, Watery River Veterans Park, West Watery Park, Woodward Park, basically every parks and recreation facility that we have.
Very good. Other comments? Yeah, Mr.
They'd also
Gardner.
have to have the Department of Revenue license alcohol or whatever they would do,
Right.
probably. And they'd still be under the jurisdiction of the sheriff's department. So
Yes, sir. And
all those things would still come into
right.
play.
And additionally, at the county's decision, they can be required to provide off-duty deputies. So the county maintains the right for every event to require they provide at their expense security.
Very good. Other comments? Yeah,
Chairman.
Ben?
I think this is also aimed at concerts and venues like that. I remember we had some interest a couple years ago at the Veterans Park,
Yeah.
but for this reason, they went somewhere else in Lugoff, thankfully. And I think they had over 3,500 or 4,000 people attend when Lone Star came and played at Land Jam. So, personally, I don't think people should drink alcohol, but I believe in agency. I also don't like it when people curse, but I don't think we should legislate anything in that way, right? I believe in freedom and agency as long as something's legal. So I'll support it on second reading.
Very good. Other comments? All right, very good. We move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. All those opposed? Mr. Jones, it passes on second reading and moves to a third reading. And we look forward to seeing and maybe hearing comments from the people of the county in the intervening period. We move at that point to item number 6, and we have, as I previously said, we're going to have an executive session so we could be informed on the discussion to follow. So with that, I'll just outline what I think would be a good progression. As we go into executive session, we come back and discuss item number 1, commercial property under new business, if you're tracking, and that would require a vote. And then we'll take items 6 and 7 for votes in title only. With that, that's my proposal.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
I move that we go into the executive session.
very good.
For contractual matter.
A second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. And to specify, it'll be the members of the council, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. DeBose, do you want to bring Tommy with us?
Miss Morgan, yes.
Yeah, you need to bring your best man with you. And we need to have Mr. Ziegler accompany us from Project Seagull. Is that correct? You want Jeff Burgess as well, Jeff, okay? So with that, we move to a vote, but I will tell you that we'll come back, as I said, and we'll move into a vote session here. And this may be extensive, as Mr. Jones and I have apologized. We hate doing executive sessions in the middle, but these things are necessary. This may be a lengthy discussion. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. Mary, we are adjourned for a period of executive session. Thank you. mics. Everyone has returned. Can we have a motion to return from executive session?
Motion to come out of executive session, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Gardner, any discussion? With that, I want to just review where we think we're going to go with this so you can follow us in the agenda. The item that we'll first take up after coming out of the executive session is item number 1 under new business under tab H, page 108 in your electric book, and it's also up on the screen. So with that, let's move to a vote to come out of executive session. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous, and we're returned from executive session. So I'm moving now to a new business, item number 1, commercial property abatement policy. I've asked to be put on the agenda. It's, as I said, tab H, page 108. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it, and then we'll put a motion.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for consideration a draft policy prepared by staff that would give the county council some guidelines that they would choose to follow in the consideration of future tax incentives for commercial projects. Key aspects of the proposal would be that investments in commercial projects must be not less than $10 million in total, that a minimum of 50 new jobs must be part of the project, and that it must have a significant private sector financial investment in it, of which that also the financial sector investment must be greater than any public sector investment as well. Those are some of the key points.
All right, can we have a motion to approve this policy?
So moved.
Mr. Brazel, a second?
Second that.
Second, Mr. Connell. With that, Russ, you want to lead off the discussion?
Well, not a whole lot to discuss on the front end. I think there's plenty to discuss between now and second reading and third reading. So I'm okay.
This one will only be discussed once, just to be clear.
So for the,
Yeah, because it's a policy and doesn't require first, second, and third.
my apologies. So as far as the policy is concerned, we don't have a policy. So now we'll have a policy, and we can look at these projects.
Yeah, Ben?
I was going to say, it gives us a foundation to have a basis for negotiation whenever people are looking at doing these types of developments in Kershaw County. Right now, we don't have a platform
have one.
for that.
Yeah, Jimmy, you had your hand up,
If I
sir.
could. Mr. Carpenter, have we ever done anything like this before?
No, sir.
Is this risky?
No, sir, because the county is not making any investment of its own funds.
But if the county does make investment of its own funds?
Well, if the county invests funds, then yes, sir, that risk becomes involved.
Sure. Here's where I'm struggling. And I'm not saying I'm against this, but here's where I'm struggling, guys. This has hit the fast track. I mean, it's moving 150 miles an hour. I'm concerned about commercial businesses. You know, we've always given fee in lieu to industrial, but now we're moving into the commercial. You know, you're talking about you got restaurants out there, you've got hotels out there, you've got businesses out there. And the thing about it is, guys, is that I'm just concerned about big organizations coming in and putting small organizations out of business. I just wish we had a little bit more time with this. But I'm just not comfortable at this moment. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want, for the record, just to mention that I'm going to support the policy tonight, but there is some things that I may think thresholds are a little low. I just need more information. So don't be surprised if this is put back on the agenda for some type of amendment.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Gardner.
I just, I appreciate Mr. Jones, his comments on that, but at the same time, I don't think we're going to have a lot of people coming in and throwing $10+ million away into projects just, in our little town of Camden. I mean, yeah, it'd be great if we did, but I don't, and being a small businessman, I appreciate your point. But at the same, I think the concerns are genuine, and we need to, again, maybe slow down and look at them. But I think this is a starting point, and because it's a policy, we can always amend it at the next meeting if we need to. So I think that's the good point about that. So, but I am concerned. I have some concerns about it as well. So But I think that's an opportunity for all of us to study it a little bit more and look at it and ask a lot of questions. So,
Well, you know,
but-
if I may, I was just want to
Sure.
respond to you. Appreciate what you just said about appreciating my position. It's just honestly how I feel, you know, and I just don't know enough about it. I'm just not comfortable at this point in time with any of this. And I'm just going to tell you straight up 6 or 7, and that's just my opinion. I need to see more about it, and I may vote for it on second reading. But I'm saying at this point in time, I'm just not comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with the fact that a commercial business can come in and get huge tax incentives, and you got mom and pop operations out there struggling to pay their employees. And as I said, I may change my mind at a second reading or a third reading, but of course, this policy only takes 1 reading.
It's just one reading.
Well, on the policy,
Policy,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, 6 and
Yeah.
7 will take 3 readings.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Other comments?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
Thanks, Jimmy. Mr. Connell.
Yeah, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. DeBose, for industrial economic incentives, what is the minimum investment threshold right now? Is it 2 million,
$2.5 million.
2.5 million? So I think part of the idea here on this policy as a starting point is, right now, we're saying industry can come in and they can invest $2.5 million in the community and receive significant tax incentives. Right now, a commercial business could come in and invest 20 million, and there's no policy that allows us to discuss with them any type of tax incentive. So I think the idea is some type of parity between, you know, regardless of what kind of business it is, if you're investing significantly in Kershaw County, we want to talk to you about the best value for the county. And this lets us do that, I think.
Mr. Jones, please, sir.
If I may, and I appreciate those remarks Mr. Connell made. The difference I see it with industry and commercial is that industry comes into Kershaw County. They're not competing with each other, but you're going to have Project Seagull coming in here that will be competing with local businesses. It is what it is. I mean, they will be competing with local businesses. And that's where I'm struggling. Thank you.
Yeah, Russell.
If I may, I can certainly see that concern. Also, what I see is local businesses could actually be impacted in a positive manner from something such as this policy. I've heard a lot of folks in the community say, "Hey, I wish we had this. I wish we had that," and I'm always going, "Okay, well, how do we get a Publix?" I don't know how many times I've heard, "Hey, we need a Publix. We need another grocery store." I think this policy will actually give us a starting point to have better conversations with those folks as they look at our community. And it may be a very positive policy once it's written and we dive into it a little further. So maybe I'm just looking for the upside here, but I hope that it's going to be positive for people who are already in the county, already have businesses. I hope it's going to be a draw. It's going to bring people into the community. People will be spending money in the community, and they'll be spending money at existing businesses. So I hope that it's going to be a very positive thing.
Other comments? I appreciate the staff worked very hard on this, recognizing this is absolutely new ground, even for our veteran councilmen, Mr. Jones and Mr. Tucker, brand new ground. And it's important that every step be a cautious and successful step as we move into new ground as a county and a development of an economic project for which we have no experience, but we have a fair amount of wisdom, and we're going to take it very deliberately. I would emphasize that this is a policy and a guideline and not a decision. And that helps us understand ourselves a little more objectively before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to do on Seagull to follow. Other discussion? Hey, thanks, everybody. This is what I hoped we'd hear, and that's why I had it put on the agenda. Thanks to the attorneys, Economic Development, and Vic for constructing this discussion in such an effective and helpful way. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor of the policy as written signify by raising your hands. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, myself, and Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. And all those opposed would be Mr. Jones, and it passes and it is now effective as a policy with guidelines with a lot of discretion going forward. Okay, we return now to the regular agenda. Item number 6 is a first reading in title only on Seagull. I'm going to ask Mr. Carpenter to introduce it, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight on first reading in title only, an ordinance that would allow the authorization of an execution of an infrastructure credit agreement between Kershaw County and the project known as Project Seagull, which is Kershaw Hospitality LLC.
And to be clear, it's providing for the issuance of an SSRC, a special source revenue credits, inclusion of certain properties. Can we have a motion to approve as written in the first reading, title only?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion?
No discussion.
No, well, there's nothing here other than this, but I would tell you as by way of discussion, I'm committed as a chairman to have substance here and perhaps the city of Camden to help us further understand this project on the 10th of August, which is our next meeting. So,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah,
if
Jimmy,
I
go
may,
right ahead, please.
I think there is something to discuss here, but I'm not going to go on about it, but bottom line, it reflects back to everything that I said earlier with the policy.
It sure
That's
does.
just where I stand
That's why I'm
at this
greatly
point in time.
That's why I'm really appreciative of what you had to say, Jimmy. That's very helpful. With that, we go to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. It's Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. Those opposed would be Mr. Jones, and it passes on first reading in title only. Item number 7, first reading also in title only of an ordinance authorizing the development of a jointly owned, operated industrial park, Project Seagull. Mr. Carpenter, introduce this one, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have tonight on first reading in title only, an ordinance that would authorize the creation of a jointly owned industrial park and the placement in that park of Project Seagull.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second
Second.
from Mr. Gardner. Mr. Carpenter, maybe you can explain why the need for a jointly owned and operating industrial park, Project Seagull. Just explain why that construct is given to us as a county to approve. Go ahead.
Well, of course, it relates back to G, which also has property in multi-county industrial park, because they both refer back to credits you can give, infrastructure credits, they call them, to properties in the multi-county parks. It all goes back to the infrastructure credits, special source revenue and inclusion of the infrastructure credits.
And
That's about the same thing.
yeah, exactly. And so can you give an instance of when we've done this before?
Well, we've done multi-county parks before, but typically in multi-county industrial parks, we to date have not given infrastructure credits, although you can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, discussion, Mr. Tucker, you want to lead it?
No, I'm good.
Second, Mr. Gardner?
Nothing.
No, any other comments? Okay, very good. And we look for more detail on the 10th of August. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. Those opposed would be Mr. Jones, and it passes and moves to second reading. Okay, we're back on our agenda now, and we move back down to new business. Item number 2, Recreation Advisory Commission appointment. It's at tab I, page 111 in your book, and also on the screen. Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would make a motion that we appoint John W. Hanks Jr. to the Recreation Commission.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion, Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Hanks is just an outstanding individual. You'll notice that he technically lives in District 2, but he's a stone's throw outside of District 3. His kids attend school at Dobie's Mill, heavily invested in the Elgin area. He's just a great individual. I think he'll serve really well. And to Mr. Jones' point in the past, you go for quality, sometimes regardless of district. This is one of those circumstances, I think. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yes, he'll be further in District 2 after this redistricting.
Is that right? I don't know. I live pretty close there, too. You can't cut me out.
All right. And I see Gerald Crates is coming off. I want everybody to be sure to thank him for his great service since 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just
2017, go ahead.
I'll just mention about Jerry Crates. one of the young ladies that we congratulated on the softball championship team,
Exactly.
his daughter was one of the champions.
How about that, huh? We got champions in Kershaw County. Kershaw strong. Thank you. So we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And Mr. Jones, will you want to vote on this one? Yep, he does. It's unanimous, Mary. Thank you very much. We move now to council briefs. And Mr. Jones, you are the first up on council briefs. Please, sir.
No comment.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. DeBose, I'm looking at Mr. Carpenter. Please thank Ms. Lauren and staff and Nathan. The reassessment video, when it went up, I knew you were getting things together after I spoke to you and didn't rush it for that weekend and did your due diligence. I think really helped the citizens. It helped me as well, and I thought it was great. Wasn't too much information, but very, just simplistic where you can understand and people weren't having heart attacks thinking that was a tax bill. And I appreciate all that you guys do. That concludes my report.
Mr. Gardner.
No report.
Russell.
I've got something to thank Lauren for as well, helping with starting to get the word out for the river sweep. August 14th is about a month out.
Yeah, let's get on that.
She's been a great help getting things put together, and I want to thank her for that. And anybody who's interested in helping, we're going to clean up a large portion of the river, and then we're going to have a good event at Veterans Park afterwards. Thank you.
Terrific. Ben?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to share that my brother Zach Connell and his wife Anna Mae had their first child, baby Nolan Connell, yesterday morning. Everybody's healthy and happy. I bring that up to bring awareness to the issue of fertility, miscarriages, and stillbirth. They have had to struggle through that, even early in marriage, and there's so many couples out there, many in Kershaw County that we all know, who deal with that. And I also wanted to emphasize the power of prayer and its impact on families. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I empathize that. To close out council briefings, I empathize with that. We've had that tragedy in my own family, and the power of prayer is such that the next time we up to bat, they had twins. So, and as they say in the poem, when the night is darkest, you begin to see the stars. And the county has had a great month with some 500 jobs being added over the next few months and years. And we got a ribbon cutting at Ernest Care. Are you going to cover that, Vic? I think it's next week, and Mary will get the word out. And that was 114 jobs added out at the Elgin exit, what we used to call Wateree Executive Park, right next to urgent care out there. We're on a winning streak, and we should remember how much labor and effort went into getting to where we are. Thanks, Economic Development. Thank you, Vic. Thank you, attorneys, both of you. Next meeting is 10 August. And meanwhile, the last vision meeting is today. We're looking to collate all that data and move into a drafting stage with the core group. A bunch of volunteers that you all know, led by such as George Gibson and Paula Scarborough, Susan Witkowski, and the whole team. And then we'll come in with a draft for approval by the county council, by the city and municipalities, by the elected bodies such as the school district. And sometime in the fall, we hope to give you guys a new product. Lastly, I'd like to make sure I have a short debrief with the economic development team, Vic, and our two attorneys based on the guidance that was given by this body in executive session, okay? And I'm sure it won't be very long. Over to you, Vic, to close us out.
No report, sir.
Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, no report.
This has got to be something wrong here. Well, thank you very much. Mary, amazing in putting together what must have been 600 pages to get us through this, and all the hard work from the staff that brought us to a conclusion with Project Goalpost. Thank you very much. With that, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker.
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Discussion? Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor? And it's unanimous, Mary. We are adjourned.